Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Mr. Hornsby from Team 8. Welcome, everybody, from Team 789, as always. I know probably not a lot of you watching this video, so I'm probably talking to my Orange and Blue Academy students. So welcome to all of you fine students. And, of course, any of you that were absent have been assigned this video as well. So let's get to it. We're doing our first video in our second unit on Rome. We're talking about the Roman Republic. Okay, so make sure I got the correct slide. No, here's the correct first slide. Here we go. My apologies to everyone watching. Okay, here we go. The Roman Republic or government. You see, he's talking about tri or three. Partite means part. So there is a three-part government. The Roman Republic had a tripartite government, a government with three branches, just like we have three branches in our government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Now, they did not use those names, however. They had magistrates, assemblies, which we saw previously, the centuriate, the tribal assembly, the plebeian council, and we also had the Senate we have talked about. So that's your three branches. And power was balanced evenly among the branches. So no one branch was able to take over. It's what we call checks and balances. So if one branch took too much power, the other two branches had a way to check them and not let them take over and cause have too much power. Each branch had ways to check or restrict the powers for other branches. So in theory, no branch could become more powerful than the others. Men who were elected to government positions were called magistrates. The magistrates carried out the laws and were responsible for running the day-to-day operations of running the republic. Some of the magistrate positions that were available. The council. The council would kind of have executive power. There would be two of them. One could veto the other, but they were more the executive power as in our government. We had the dictator, which is just as you said, would be the sole ruler. We have the tribunes, which we're going to talk about momentarily. We had the praetor, which kind of handled the court cases. We had the censor, which we'll talk about. And we had the aediles, which kind of dealt with like construction, maintenance, kind of kept things running. And then we had the quaesitor, which really handled like money, kind of like the treasury. Like one of their jobs would be to make sure like the soldiers got paid, for example. So those are your magistrate positions. Now, in the beginning, only patricians served as magistrates, remember? After the conflict of orders, the plebeians became eligible to serve as magistrates also. And we discussed this in our previous unit. Okay. Now, Roman Republic, the consuls. There were two consuls. They were elected by the censorate to 1-year terms. They had to approve each other's actions, so neither one could take total power. And they each had the power to overrule the other's actions with a veto, which is Latin for I forbid. Veto, right? Okay. They ran the government. They carried out the laws and commanded the army. They governed with advice from the Senate and oversaw the other magistrate positions. So again, these are kind of the overseer, as we said, kind of the executive branch. You maybe kind of relate them to like maybe Mr. Parker and our vice assistant principals, our top of the food chain here in the school, for example. So one is plebeian and I am patrician. By 367 BC, one of the consuls had to be plebeian, as we discussed last week. In trying times like these, we need a dictator. Well, that did sometimes happen. During emergency or crisis like war, the consuls, with advice from the Senate, nominated a dictator. Decisions had to happen quickly. There was not time to go through all the steps of government. We needed someone who could make quick, informed, educated, correct decisions. and that would have been best served for a dictator. The citizens of Rome would then confirm the consul's decision in a special assembly. And remember, all the citizens could come together to the assembly. A dictator could rule up to 6 months with complete control over the army and the courts. So this is a very, very powerful position. He could also overrule the consuls. So we're talking, this is a true dictatorship type of power if you were in this position, which would happen, as we said, during times of war. Okay, we have one dictator who his name may sound familiar to you. Cincinnatus was an example of a model dictator, a perfect dictator. His story is very unique. In just 15 days, in 458 BC, Cincinnatus took control over the army and led them to victory. He attended the victory celebrations, and then he gave up the dictatorship and returned to his farm. Sounds crazy, right? And yes, the city of Cincinnati is named after the dictator Cincinnatus. In fact, he was a consul for a year previously, and his term ended. A few years later, they were in dire need of leadership as they were being attacked from the south and southeast. So they didn't have time to go through every step. So they elected Cincinnatus as dictator. Well, he took over, made the right decisions. They won the battle. And then instead of staying in that position for another 5.5 months and reaping all the benefits of being in that position, he called it done. He hung up his title, went back to his farm, and went back to his life. So that's why he's considered a perfect dictator. He did not take advantage of his position. He served a republic, and then he went home. In 449 BC, there were 10 plebeians elected tribunes by the plebeian council. Tribunes had to be a plebeian. They presided over the plebeian council and acted as advocates for plebeian demands. Because as you remember, before the conflict that we had with the patricians, plebeians were very much oppressed and not allowed to have the same fair rights as their counterparts, the patricians. Now, eventually, the tribunes became very powerful and could even veto the actions of the Senate. Additionally, the tribunes could not be arrested, and any person who injured a tribune could be put to death. So they are sitting in a very powerful position. Okay. All right. We'll stop there today. Hope you did good on your Ed puzzle today, as I'm sure you did. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll finish this lecture, and you have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.